apparently Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have won the US presidency. If you want to believe the Associated Press, whom appear to have called the race before it may truly be over, what with a couple of states doing a recount due to the closeness and the numerous fraud allegations. What I find particularly interesting is the response of various personalities, across the internet, social media world, especially Twitter, and not just personalities, normal folk too, who have come out in relief and celebration at the election of Joe Biden. Now, it's perfectly fine to celebrate the election of your preferred candidate, even if they are a massively corrupt socialist pawn rather. But what I find interesting is, first of all, there are various people whom I follow on Twitter who are usually not political. They purposefully don't post any political content because they know it alienates their fan base. But they have come out and just said a word about Biden, which does illustrate exactly how politicized the entire world has become and how polarized the United States is, and even very apolitical people are coming out with political stances. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk about was the, emotional reaction that people have had to the end of Trump's presidency, on the left that is. What they seem to be experiencing is a sort of a emotional release, or they talk as if they've been freed from an abusive relationship, basically, saying things like, thank God these 4 years are finally over. Oh, after 4 years I can finally breathe. Oh, my anxiety is I can finally let go of this anxiety that I've been holding for 4 years. As well as other people saying, finally we can get a return to normal politics, or whatever the word they use is, And I have this question in my mind, which is, what did Trump do to you? These people who are having this great release of anxiety, I ask, why were you anxious in the first place? Because judging from Trump's record of not things that he's said, the things that he has done, his actual political actions, he hasn't done anything bad. Really, he seems to have, stimulated the economy, returned jobs to America, stood up to China, worked to defund the corrupt UN and WHO. He hasn't done anything bad. When you mention this to people, they tend to say, he put kids in cages, referring to the ICE border facilities. But to that I shall say two things, which is, one, Donald Trump didn't specifically put people in cages, aside from the fact that he didn't build the cages and all that, but these are illegal immigrants. They have crossed the border illegally, and as a result have been detained. It's come out that most of the children are not with their parents, they're in fact with people smugglers, so separating children from their parents is not a thing that's especially happening there. And it's not Trump's responsibility to basically, he didn't make them cross the border. They crossed the border of their own accord. I understand that with children it's a very tricky case because they're not, legal adults, they're not responsible, so they shouldn't be treated as criminals per se. But at the same time, they have to be housed, detained until they can be rehomed, which is what they're doing. So it doesn't sound overly unreasonable. But second to that, none of these people kicked up a fuss when everyone's favourite president, Mr. Obama, was drone striking civilian children in Iraq and Afghanistan? Did they? No. It seems they only care about that when it's politically convenient for them. So, and even so, like, you know, detaining illegal immigrants is not like, you know, it's not like Trump's personally, he's not, you know, setting up gas chambers, is it? But they seem to think that he is. In fact, there was one particular Twitter commentator who I believe is an actual political person, journalist or something, who came out with a statement in response to a Trump supporter, saying, well, you would have gassed us if you'd had the chance. Like, are you mental? I mean, clearly he is mental, but claiming that Trump supporters are some sort of ethno-state genocidal, you know, creatures is insane. It's bonkers. You know, Trump has made no movement towards that. In fact, he has greater support of the black community than Obama did. Jesus. But, you know, a lot of this I do believe is projection, because the Democrats accuse Trump and Trump supporters of the things that they fear because they're the things that they would do. You know, I do believe that these racial supremacists that exist would institute racial policies that would eventually end up with segregation, concentration camps, genocide. And we'll have to see what the Biden administration brings, but let me tell you this. Pretty much every socialist government that's ever existed has instituted some form of concentration camp or genocide within a year of its implementation. So we will see what the Biden administration brings. But back to my point, these people, they are personally attacked by Trump. That's what they think. They think Trump has been abusing them. They characterize him as the abuser in their relationship and the cause of their anxiety, when that is not the truth. The truth is that the media are the abusers. The politicians, the Democrats, the pundits are the abusers, because they are the ones who have convinced these, frankly, vulnerable people that they are being oppressed, that they are, you know, being part of a fascist state, that Trump is some sort of demon. You know, had it not been for the media, if I was to just present you with a list of every action that Trump has taken in office, no one would bat an eyelid at it. In fact, there are plenty of examples of leftists being given either Trump quotes or Democrat quotes and being unable to tell the difference. So on a factual level, I don't think there's these people have nothing to complain about. You know, everything bad that has happened in America, you know, the riots, the looting, the burning, the discrimination, the tear gas, is a result of actions taken by leftist agitators, not by Trump. Trump has been, you know, remarkably calm and reasonable throughout everything, and obeyed the democratic rule of law and not imposed law and order on these places when perhaps he should have. On a side note, eagle-eyed viewers will notice that the governor of Oregon has finally decided to shut down the riots and quell the civil unrest with the use of the National Guard. And guess what? After 5 months of protests, the day after the election, it's all shut down. Now the people are going to be arrested. Now the protests are going to stop. Antifa will no longer be funded. BLM will no longer be funded. DAs will now prosecute. Why? Because you were useful idiots and your usefulness has now run out. Our man, Joe Biden, has been elected. We have no need for Antifa anymore. We have no need for BLM anymore. They only existed as a tool to restore the status quo. So we'll see, eh? We will see. It's a shame, I'll tell you that. I was really hoping for the Trump landslide. It would have been beautiful. Oh, that reminds me. Of course, AOC and other left-wing Democrat lunatics are compiling a list of Trump supporters so they can then have some sort of purge or fucking kangaroo court social destruction of Trumpism. I don't really want to go into it, but basically they're echoing every socialist communist regime that ever came into power by immediately destroying all those who oppose them before they, pack the courts and implement coronavirus legislation that allows them to override democracy. So good luck with that one, America. Anyway, we shall see. We shall see what the result of the challenges are, whether the election does turn out to be fraudulent. Either way, look after yourself, Americans, because I foresee it's about to get real bad in your country, one way or another.